to be here. I know there's several of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. So it's nice to at least see photos and your names, and those of you who have your cameras on, it's nice to see you. We are starting to be able to get out and see people in person, so you might see me around the office here relatively soon. I'll be talking to Ashraf about that, and we'll set some things up. I am based in Edmonton. I cover Northern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So depending on where everybody on the call is located, for the most part, I think you'd be reaching out to me if there's anything that you need from the insurance side of SSQ and La Capitale. And Safeena is our inside wholesaling support. So she's based in Toronto, but does a fantastic job of looking after everything and helping us out on our end. So I am more or less letting Safeena do the training tonight. I've asked her to step in and do it because, as Ashraf mentioned, she is one of the most experienced people on our team. She knows her stuff very well, so I'm going to let her do it. And I'm here to learn myself and also to help step in and answer questions as needed. So with that, I'll hand it back to Safeena, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Ashraf. So my name is Safeena Silverman, and just to make a comment, I saw somebody's last name, Hyderar, and it's funny because my maiden last name was Hyderalli, Hydaralli. So there you go. I thought, that's kind of interesting. I don't see that name often, so that's why I'm making a comment on it. So what I'm going to do first is share my screen so that we can, let me see the screen that I'm sharing. Making sure I'm sharing the right screen so that we can go through everything. Let me know if you're seeing my screen so that, okay, perfect.
Yeah, good.
So with the illustration software, our current version is 10.0. And in this software, of course, you can go to term, permanent, universal life, critical illness. So I'll just click on each one of them to just show you where it takes you. So when you click on term, you can access all the products except for universal life. So to get to universal life, you need to click on universal life. So you can choose any of the term. You can also layer coverage. So I'll show you how to layer the coverage in universal life.
Safeena, I'm not sure that everyone can see your screen. I'm still seeing the.
That's okay. Sorry, I think that's my fault.
Seeing the landing.
So we can see. I can see that.
Stop share. No share. Okay, just 1 second.
We were good, Safeena. Maybe
so
something wrong on
it. I'm sharing the screen and not just the program. So let me see. Okay, so it's not sharing the screen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to another screen and I'm going to share that screen. So I think that may work better.
I can see the illustrator now. It was just the landing page the first time.
But I want to share the screen, so anything on that screen will be showing on it. Just 1 second. Show all windows, share. Okay, so now I believe you should be able to see everything on my screen. Just confirm that you are.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it. Your camera is pointed down at your keyboard, though.
Yes, because I was looking at my TV. Now I'm going to look sideways, okay? So you can still see me. So on the illustration software, when you open Term Plus, this is what you get. And of course, you can select all the products except Universal Life. So that's one. So you can choose permanent, all of that. This is the insurance application here that I've clicked on. This is a fillable application. It'll open up in a minute, and I'll bring it over. Okay. So with the application, it is a fillable application, but when you are using the fillable application and you open it, it is strongly recommended that you go to page 3, hit reset form a few times, because then, as you can see, the number changes. You want to make sure you don't have a duplicate number to someone else, okay? And you can type in all the information in the application, okay? and we accept a list of electronic signatures. So I'm going to send you the list of electronic signatures that we accept at the end of the presentation, okay? So that there is no problem with when you're using electronic signatures, okay? And I'm going to send you the document center as well, where you can access all documents. All of that will be given to you. Okay. So back to the illustration software. So we've been through the application. Premium comparison. When you're using premium comparison, so for example, if I go to a term product, I can enter all the information in here.
Darren's good.
Okay, I can enter all the information here. And if I go to premium comparison, it will give me everything for all the terms. It'll just take a moment to calculate. So here it'll tell me what all the terms, whole life, what it will cost to quote this. So you don't have to re-enter for every product. So just fill in the information, go to premium comparison, and you will have this. So this is really helpful at a glance for you to be able to manage and look at the different terms right away. Okay. If you need any other help, just contact me and I will be able to walk you through again. Sales concept, I'm not going to go there. Financial calculator, not yet. FNA, the financial needs analysis. Again, if you don't know what your client needs, how to determine the amount of insurance for death benefit, critical illness, retirement, there's a questionnaire as well to determine what you need. And with the questionnaire, there is a, you can complete it and print it, or you can have a blank version, view the blank profile of the FNA. So this is what the blank profile looks like. Oops, let me bring it over, just 1 second. So this is the blank version of the FNA, and you can scroll through and you will see all the information. It gives you points to tell you the client's risk tolerance and all of that in that FNA. Then we have the electronic application. Now for electronic application, when you click on electronic application, you're going to have to go to login. You can do the term and critical illness by using the electronic application. You cannot do the universal life, whole life, or T100 on the electronic application. So the permanent products are not available except for CI and the term, okay? And here is return to the main screen. So now we're going to go to the library briefly. So in the library, it's a wealth of information. Here for all the term plus, universal life, it's right here. Click on that. It has the investment options. It has at a glance universal life, a client brochure, the maximizer option being explained here, product description, sales concept, supplement to the application. All of that information is there for you to use. The other one that I want to bring to other is the underwriting. We have the underwriting guides and guidelines for critical illness, underwriting guides and guidelines for life insurance. Please use the financial guidelines as well when you're doing life insurance, because it gives you a guide to say if a client is making $50,000 a year, 10 to 20 times income. It also depends on the age. So the older the client, the less insurance they can have in terms of times their salary or income. There is the underwriting requirements. Immigration and foreign residency is used a lot because a lot of clients, new immigrants coming in, students, whatever their situation is, the immigration and foreign residency guidelines will give you the most of the information that you need. And here is the underwriting guide with medical condition. Now it doesn't list everything. If you're not sure, what I like to do is also tell the advisor, you know what, if a client say, I have a condition you've never heard before, just Google it, because it'll give you some idea of what that condition is. So you have some idea, and then you can ask the client more questions as to what. So when you send that opinion request to us, you can provide us with more information, because then you understand what it is about. so we can get, the right questions answered so that we can give you an opinion. But an opinion is only an opinion. It is not binding. Only when you submit a fully completed application that we fully underwrite, that decision is binding. So you can just relate to that. The other thing that you should be going to is the general documents. So in the general document section, this general information guide should be your Bible, basically. It has a wealth of information when it comes to doing new business. Okay, so choice of main insured policy, fee, premium calculation, it goes through everything. So if you're in this page, if you click on premium calculation, for example, it takes you to the page. If you go back and you click on, because if you're looking for a page, instead of scrolling down, say, for example, you want temporary insurance agreement, just click on it. It takes you to the temporary insurance agreement. So it's very, very user-friendly and saves you a lot of time to find information. So since I have the temporary insurance agreement up, for temporary insurance, the maximum is $500,000 that you can get not regardless. If the amount is over $500,000 of insurance you're applying for, the maximum is $500,000. Temporary insurance is only available on life insurance, not critical illness, okay? If you're applying for $250,000, then the maximum temporary insurance you can get is $250,000. So just to keep that in mind. And the temporary insurance is basically the earlier of the date of the decision or 90 days, whichever one is first. So keep that in mind. Just read it through. It'll give you the information you're looking for. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but this here, when you have a question about, how to fill out the application, what sections means what, go to this guide because it is extremely helpful. Okay. So now we're going to go directly into the universal life. Okay. Oh, and one thing I forgot, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go into the document center. So in the document center, I'm going to send you this link. It has everything you need. Forms and questionnaires, for example. You scroll down, all the forms, questionnaires are here. You want information on underwriting, click on here. All the information on underwriting is here. You want product information, it's all here. Critical illness, applications are here. So all the applications that you may need is in this section here. So it's a very, very user-friendly guide, and it's a public site. You do not need username or password to get in either, okay? So this you may find very helpful. So I'm going to send that to you as well, okay? So back to the illustration software. So for universal life, choose your province. So we'll choose Alberta to start with. So I'm going to use 500,000 as my guide here. So we have personally owned insurance and we have corporately owned insurance. Sometimes you have a business owner that wants the company to be the payer, beneficiary, and owner of the policy. We can do that as well. So personally owned or corporately owned insurance, we can definitely do. And there's some rules around it. So we're not going to go through rules right now. We're just going to talk about the software. What we have, which is extremely important, we have individual, joint first, joint last. There is no multi-life that is available in the universal life policy. So if you have a husband and wife, they want coverage, each person getting their own amount of coverage, then it has to be two separate policies. If you're doing a joint first, obviously it pays on the first death, but there's some rules that if the survivor is under age 65, they can purchase insurance for up to the same amount, permanent only, without medical evidence, before age 65 if they are the survivor. So we can get more in details about that. Joint lasted eye, of course, it pays only on the last death. There is YRT cost of insurance, there's T100 cost of insurance, and then we can set up something that's YRT cost to T100 cost if you want to set a date where it switches over to T100. These are the face amount adjustments, no increases, exempt test increases, increases and decreases, and the maximizer option. This marginal tax rate, it is most important when we're doing a specific type of concept. So the default will not matter in the majority of your cases, but in certain specific cases that are more detailed and more involved, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have the proper information to do the quote. Let's see what else. So that's basically it. So I'm going to do a sample. Just using randomly, female non-smoker. So this is to start with our illustration. The next tab we go to, so the first tab was client and coverage. The next tab is premium deposits. So what I like to do is not to complete this right away. I go to investments. What investments and interest rate do I want to use for my universal life? It always defaults to balance strategy at 4%, but you can do the drop down and you can customize, or you can customize the profile. So if I go customize, this is what I can choose. And then it'll automatically fill that in for me, or I can choose my investment myself, okay? So here, if the option is customize, if I want to customize. So for example, if I just want to default, I can do that. And I'll start from the very basic. We have the 10-year guaranteed interest rate, which is 1% guaranteed interest rate. I've put here a 47-year-old, so it'll be 53. Transitory account pays 0 rate of return, okay? So that's how I set this up. If I want to take money down the road, if I'm overfunding, this is what I will go to. If I want riders and benefits, I will go there, but I'll go back to the investment option. So that's one. So here I can customize. So I'm doing it at the guaranteed rate of return. Premium and deposit, this is where I can decide how do I want to pay for the coverage. I go back to client coverage. I have YRT increasing. I'm going to change it to YRT level. I want to start from the basic. I should have done that early. So YRT level death benefit, that means the death benefit stays level and I'm paying the least cost for this insurance. But then again, it all depends on age, whether the YRT will be better or the T100. So you should be doing both. So if I want to choose minimum deposit and maybe monthly, so the minimum annual deposit to maintain the policy in force to maybe age 100 because I want it to be permanent. I calculate. This will be the monthly premium for 500,000 based on 1%. Okay, so this is a very basic illustration I'm doing. I can go reports, customize, and what I will do is choose English, complete. So the type will be complete, and I want all durations to age 100. I always choose detailed charges, underwriting. Those are the areas that I can choose. I can choose based on cash value, based on death benefit if I wanted, to just have additional pages. I can also go to custom pages, and I've chosen some custom pages that I use regularly. If I want to show the ACB, if I want to show many things, I can choose it. So go back to custom report. So for example, if I wanted to show these, they are optional. Okay, just keep in mind they are optional. If I want to show these, if I want to show the ACB, I can do that. I choose ACB, add to that. So I have that. And then what I do is click on here and I should have my illustration now. It'll take a moment. So with my my illustration, it's YRT level death benefit. I chose increases and decreases as my face amount adjustment, 500,000. So this is my annual cost, my policy fee. Now, on the YRT cost of insurance, no extreme disability is included whatsoever, okay? No EDB is included in the YRT. The T100, it is included. Privilege in case of disability basically is if you build up a lot of cash values in your policy and you were to become disabled, you can access the cash values as a disability income, and that income will be non-taxable. But you have to build up cash values to be able to take advantage of that. So if a client doesn't necessarily have a individual disability plan out there, but they want to overfund their UL policy, this is a great way to show them the benefits of having a UL policy with this privilege in case of disability, that they can actually get tax-free income if they become disabled. So the total minimum annual premium is $1,100. Now with YRT, This 1,100 is only assuming year one premium only, not year two. And I'll show that to you later. Total monthly minimum premium for year one only, it's $91.67 a month. But we have levelized the premium, so we've averaged the premium out for all the increases each year, and it's $551 monthly. So here is what our illustration looks like. So Alberta, monthly billing premium $551 for 53 years, because I have the payment to age 100. Minimum monthly premium is $91 if I want to keep the policy in force for year one. But for the YRT cost, we expect that the client will make the levelized premium for at least 2 years before they can reduce the premium to the level, to the minimum premium. Maximum monthly premium or annual maximum premium, $22,290, that is your MTAR. So that's your maximum tax actuarial room that you're allowed to overfund the policy. January of 2017, the government reduced the MTAR room for universal life policies, just to give you an idea why the amount is not as high as maybe some of you are used to. So this is what the policy looked like. I did it at 1% rate of return. So because I'm overfunding it starting from year one, because I'm paying more than what the minimum premium is, part of that premium is being invested. So here is how YRT works. So every time you fund a policy, the amount at risk to the insurance company reduces as you build up cash values. So if you add the cash value, the base fund value plus the amount of risk, you're going to have the death benefit. That's what YRT level does, okay? The cash surrender value. In the first 7 years of the policy, you can see that the fund value and the surrender value are different because they are surrender charges. Starting in year 8, there are no surrender charges. So that's important for you to know. So if the client were to cancel the policy, they are going to be charged. So in year 1, basically, they're only going to get $1,489 back in this scenario if they were to do. Year 4, for example, $18,000 will be given back, but they're not going to get the full $23,000 because of the surrender charges. Okay, so the policy, as you can see, if we add any year, we add the fund value plus the amount of risk will equal the $500,000. That's level death benefit. Because we're not overfunding it, we're level minimum funding this policy. Okay, this is the alternate scenario. So sorry, this is still continuing to age 100. So at age 100, and you're seeing that the amount at risk went down, now it's going up again. And I'll explain that to you in a little bit. So at age 100, the policy basically gets back to be, the cash values are enough to support the premiums to keep the policy in force to age 100. Detailed charges. So this is the page that's really going to give you an idea how YRT works. So again, these numbers I went through already. So in year 1, you're making $6,612. The premium tax is $198, fixed fee $60. The cost of the actual insurance is $497. So the cost for the actual insurance is $755, but you're putting in $6,000. So I'm going to say close to $6,000 is being invested, say at 1%. Starting in year 6, SSQ pays a bonus of 1% added. So if you do the guarantee rate for now, we're earning 2% as of year 6 in the policy. So the policy is going to, the cash values are going to go more aggressively. And here is what matters, the last column, the cost column. So every year, YRT yearly renewable cost, the cost of the insurance will go up. So for many years, you're not going to see a problem, but starting in, I want to go to my end page. Let me do it here. So close to age 82, it's almost equaling the premiums that I'm paying. So starting in year 83, the cost of the insurance is greater than the premium that I'm putting in. Now, SSQ, the cost of our insurance runs to age 100. So even though you could pay the policy up in 10 years or 15 or 20 years, the cost of the insurance is still being deducted. So this is what's showing that the actual costs that are being deducted. So those cash values that you built up, if you were to not have that happen, then say in year 88 or age 88, you're going to have to come up with $15,000 to pay the premiums. Most people, as we get older, don't have the cash flow to do that. So YRT is good when you levelize the premium, which we do. In year 50, age 97, for example, 31,000, if the client were to live that long. And of course, the death benefit will pay if the client die anytime during here. So that is why YRT is good. When you look at the cost of YRT, it makes sense. Now, this premium is quite high. I want to show you the other pages that I chose. So detailed charges, then we go rate of return on cash value. You can have that if you wanted. Then, but in here it's not showing, it's showing the return rates on that. If you're very analytical, you can get very, into very deep discussions with your client. Then we have rate of return based on death benefit. This is a good example to use insurance as an investment tool to say to the person, you bought 500,000. If you were to pass away at whatever time, this is your rate of return. So it does add value to what the client is purchasing, okay? Underwriting, so based on the age of the person, it says no underwriting requirements are needed. If the client was older, then they would have been underwriting requirements. Then we have the ACB, adjusted cost base. So this is a page that when someone is doing a concept type illustration or wanting cash values to access down the road, this is a great piece to show them what the ACB is, because there's always a taxable portion when you withdraw money or take a policy loan. If you collateralize the policy, it's handled differently. So the ACB goes on, and then we have the description of the policy itself. So what I mentioned to you earlier was the privilege in case of disability. So it tells you what the universal is, the investment options available, let me go to the next page, managed accounts, index account, all of that. So benefits included free of charge. So privilege in case of disability. So it's offered free of charge. There's no cost to it. On this contract, allow the policy owner to receive a benefit if an insured becomes disabled. The benefit is an integral part of the policy to provide supplementary income in the event of disability at a time when one's financial needs may be greater. So it's a really good way to encourage your client to maybe overfund the policy if they don't have disability coverage, because down the road, when they build up enough cash values and if they become disabled, they can access it. If they want to withdraw, then of course they're going to be a taxable portion.
Just one question here,
Yeah.
especially for this, when we talk about this disability benefit, is equivalent to the cash value. If the client decides to withdraw the money, definitely it will go out of the face value. What will happen to the cash value then? Cash value is still staying there for the client, or how is it going to?
No. So specific to the disability, when you access it at disability income, it would deplete the cash values. But at the same time, if the client wants the policy to stay in force, the client will have to continue to make premium payments or even increase the premium payments to keep the policy in force. So those will be things that will affect it. But this is a discussion for individual policies, but these are all benefits and features in the plan that will help you to know, to ask the right questions, to say, how does it work? How does it affect the client? All of that I can explain in more details.
It does provide them with the opportunity to access it tax-free though. So
yes,
although they do have to continue making premium payments in a pinch, in a situation where they're disabled, they do have access to the cash without paying tax on it, which they wouldn't have in an able-bodied situation withdrawing from the contract. So it does provide them with that additional benefit in that case.
So they do have to qualify for disability based on the definition of disability.
Yep.
So if they don't meet that requirement, then they won't be able to access it as a disability income, which is of course non-taxable. Okay. So
Okay.
this is the first scenario.
Actually, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Hi there. It's not related to the premium, but it's related to underwriting. We just saw the illustration that it says like no underwriting needed for, sometimes it's written on the illustration.
Age and amount determined what the underwriting requirements are. But of course, when you
No
submit an
underwriting needed,
application,
and then
so
Yeah.
although it says no underwriting required, the underwriter reserves the right to request additional requirements, because based on the medical questions that you answer, they may require an APS to be done. They may say, you know what, the client has condition A, maybe we need blood, urine, EKG, you know, vitals, different things. So the underwriter always has the right to order additional requirements.
Okay, and then is there any time frame, like the moment you submit, like the day you submit the application, and then how long it would take the underwriter to let you know that the client needs a paramedical and stuff, or no?
Well, this is it. If the illustration says no requirements, you don't have to order anything. When it goes to the underwriter, within a day or two of receiving the application, the underwriter will review the application. If the medical questions are completed, they have a better idea.
I'll check
Yeah,
it out.
Okay, so
Okay, sorry.
could we get that person muted if we don't mind?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
basically, when the underwriter reviews all those questions, if the questions are completed, they'll have a better idea of what requirements they want to order, and they will let you know what needs to be ordered.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, thank you. It's just like because I had sorry, I'm taking your time. I had like, and I got all the information yesterday that they need the medicals done for like 4 of my clients.
Mhm.
And we were waiting for the policies to be delivered. So that was my question. Like, is there any time frame, or like they can order anytime?
Basically, after review, they may order, and if they order an attending physician statement and they found additional information that was not there, they were not aware of, then they may say we need to order even more requirements. They may send it to reinsurance, because the reinsurance will review it. The reinsurer could say, you know what, we need an additional test to be done. So it could be a little bit lengthy, but the thing is, it is very thorough. So this way, when the contract is issued, hopefully it will not be rescinded, because if information is not disclosed or discovered, policies can be rescinded. So we want to make sure that all the work you put in, that the policy stays in force. So it is thorough underwriting, and there's always an MIB check on every application that is submitted. We always do an MIB check, because if you submitted applications to other insurers, that information is coded. It encodes with the MIB. So if you answer yes to heart attack, for example, it may be code 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we go to the MIB and you have answered no in our application, that's called an MIB hit, because it's saying, no, you did not answer that question to match.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like that can trigger additional investigation, things like that for us to underwrite, and takes longer. Now, the other thing is, I guess volume sometimes have an impact with time, that it may take longer to get through the application, people being on holidays, things like that. So we do try our best to get them done, and we have a very good turnaround rate with applications, but there are some applications that will take longer. Some applications will be, done within 2 weeks even. So we see that, but on average, we have about a 30 to, I think, 32-day turnaround on application, but that's taking into account the one that takes much longer and the ones that take much shorter time. So that's our average. It sounds good, but it's not always good in every application. So I'm not trying to, misguide you in any way with that. But if you're not sure, you can always contact our new business, and they will give you all the information you need, because they have access to the underwriting. Okay? So don't be afraid to contact your MGA or contact our new business and underwriting, that can give you more information. You want updates, you want all of that, they can give you all of that information. Okay? That will help.
All right.
Okay.
Can I just add, Safeena,
Sure.
if you noticed on the illustration itself, it said that additional requirements may be ordered based on predictive analytics. So we do use predictive analytics as well. So even if there are not concerns that come up in the questionnaire, there's a possibility that the underwriter may request additional information based on that predictive analytics, which there are a number of them that are selected at random. So it doesn't always necessarily mean there's something. There are a few that are selected at random. So just keep that in mind as well, that even though there aren't requirements, there is going to be the odd time that that clients get pulled at random to get additional medical underwriting because of that.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to start with scenario 2 now to get you on how to do this. So the first scenario I did it.
No, thank you. I think if I got the random ones, this
Increases and decreases. So now what I'll do, the same scenario, in fact, I'll change it to YRT increasing, okay?
Hi,
To show
Safeena.
you the difference.
Hello.
Sorry, somebody asking a question?
Yes, please. It's on the previous concept of underwriting. So I need to ask one question regarding that, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, sorry, I just lost my question. So it's related with the underwriting. So for a person, when we are talking about underwriting and everything, so if the client is already go through one medical with previous company, some other company, so for how long that medical is valid and what we need to put on the file?
So for example, if it's, I would say within a year, but sometimes depending on the
Yep.
age, the underwriter, the older the person are, the person is, the underwriter will not allow maybe a year, maybe they want something that is less than 6 months old, underwriting, because people's health will change. If it's a younger person, up to a year with, the underwriting requirements are good for that. So if you have the information done by another insurer, you can always do the med share. So where the requirements on the application, you can put in med share, provide the information of the other company so that we can go to the other company to get the information. And then we can use that information to underwrite. But also we reserve the right to order additional requirements, because some of the tests may, if we feel that maybe we need another blood test, maybe we need another urine test or whatever, the underwriter can always order that. So it doesn't mean that the med share will be the end all and be all of the underwriting. No, we can always order additional requirements. Okay.
Yeah, because we always follow the step, like first we submit the application. So if its illustration is not showing us like it's going for any underwriting or blood or urine, so we submit the application. So once we submit that application, so if there is like already client go through like before, after 6 months, past 6 months, so there is med lab on the client's file. So where we need to make that change, we need to go through the MGA, or we do need to call you guys? How we will make
you
that
can
change
always
happen?
go through your MGAs. Your MGA is
okay.
probably the best place to go to.
Yeah.
To get those in. But you know what I'm going to do? We have at least 30 minutes at the end for questions. So can we go through the illustration first? Then we're going to deal with
sure.
underwriting and the other questions. I think will help us to understand the software better, if that's okay. All right, good. So with this, I'm going to do YRT increasing now. Premium and deposit, I'm leaving that blank. Investments, I'm going to leave it the same. So the difference between YRT level and YRT increasing. So I go calculate. So instead of $500, it's more like $800. And because I've chosen all the requirements already in terms of what I want to show, I'll show what the illustration looks like. So the YRT, because it is still YRT, it gives me the base amount, the policy fee. Extreme disability is included. So the YRT level death benefit, no extreme disability is built in. On the YRT increasing, extreme disability is built in. Privilege in case of disability, we discussed that, that's included. So it gives me the minimum premium and annual and the minimum monthly, which was exactly the same, the 9167. Page 2 gives me the same amount of annual maximum funding for the policy, the same minimum, but the average monthly, because it's YRT increasing, it requires more premium. So here you will see that the fund value, the cash surrender value, same in the first 7 years, they are surrender charges. After that, there is no surrender charges. But what you're seeing, the fund value plus the amount of risk is now your death benefit. So that is your face plus. That is what the YRT increasing is giving you. And let me just go down a little bit further. So as you see, the cash value depleting, and then it depletes considerably towards the end, because obviously we're using the cash values to supplement the premiums. And that is showing on the detailed charges page. Again, refer to this page because it really gives you some guidelines. So I'm putting in 9,600 at age 82, the premiums that I'm paying exceeds the charges. So that's coming from the cash value. That's why it is depleting and the death benefit becomes lower at the same time. So when I look at the death benefit increasing, and then now as the cash values are being taken out, less premiums are put in, the death benefits start decreasing. So what is better for the client? You'll have to decide which the client likes best. Maybe the client wants to overfund it a little bit more because we're doing level minimum funding. So there is a lot of other ways of doing this illustration, okay? So one more thing I'm going to do here is same scenario. If the client say, I want to, instead of making $803 a month, I want to put in maybe 1,000. So I go to none, I can go custom, and then I can change that. Or the client wants to say, I want to make $1,000. I can go here and I can put in $1,000. What does my illustration look like? So just minimum changes that you can do on how to use the software. So now I'm putting in 1,000 a month. Does it make a difference in the policy? Absolutely, significant. It does make in the policy, well, how it's funded, the cash value, the death benefit. Now at age 100, you will see that the policy is much more than 500,000 because there's that overfunding to help to grow the policy. But this is only at 1% with the 1% bonus starting in year 6. So you can see the significant difference that just putting in some more money into the policy can help to grow the policy significantly, okay? The other one that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the interest rate. So I'm just going to choose anything because all I'm showing is the interest rate return. If I show 4%, what does 4% look like? I'm still paying the $1,000, but if the policy is growing at a higher rate of return, you can see the death benefit. Oops, the death benefit is significant as to what the policy goes to be. So now you're having coverage over $1 million, it's growing to, and then at age 100, you have $2 million of coverage. So that rate of return does have a significant impact. So choosing the right investments or managing that investments on a regular basis, once every 6 months, you review the policy, making sure that there is good performance. We allow 2 switches per year with the investment, so we can talk about that in more in detail when you have a case. So we can handle each case individually so that you know specifically for your client what the features, benefits, and what the needs of the client, I guess, is. You will let us know, and we will help you with that. So just changing a few little things will be significant how the policy turns out. If the actual investment were to perform, say, at 10%, this will look quite different when we do an in-force illustration once the policy goes in force. So interest rate, that's why I start low, because you don't want to overpromise and under-deliver. So show the client maybe 2 or 3 different scenarios at a low rate, a mid-range rate, and a higher rate, and I would not go more than 6%. But if the investments that you choose perform much better, then the client, of course, is going to be happier. If I go 6%, just to give you an idea, because I know a lot of advisors like using 6%. So we said at age 100, we were going to get 2 million. It's now 4.6 million, just by going 6%. So you can see what a significant difference the interest rate makes on the illustration, okay?
Just please keep in mind that at a 6% interest rate, you do need to be managing that investment.
Yeah.
The 1% GIA, the 10-year GIA at 1% is the only guaranteed return that we have. And then that 1% bonus is going to apply to any investment. But anything other than that 10-year GIA, you will want to make sure you're managing the investment component as well.
Yeah. And review at least, once every 6 months, minimum once a year, you want to at least review so that the client is getting the best possible return. So the next scenario, I'm going to click on scenario 2. I'm going to change this to T100 cost of insurance. I'm going to leave everything else the same. I'm going to go to premium and deposit. I'm going to choose minimum deposit to maintain policy in force to age 100. So there, 488. But I'll go back to scenario 1. I forgot to do one more thing. Premium deposit. Say the client they want to pay the premiums up in 20 years. I can do that. So I do the drop down. I choose the number of years. And what I can do is making sure that the client gets the best. So this is not going to now give me the premium, but I can go minimum premium here. I go from none to minimum. Then I can have to calculate. So now the client needs 412 monthly or annually. We're looking at 4,896, okay, to pay the premium to maintain the policy in force, okay? I just want to make sure that it's calculated. I think the policy is going to say it's lapsing, but I hope not. No, okay. So if the client goes monthly, 421, annually, 5,000, we're looking at the YRT cost of insurance here. And as you can see, is YRT increasing. So the client is making $5,000 over 20 years. The policy grows. We're doing it, say, at 6% rate of return. That's why it didn't show lapsing. But then again, the investment has to be managed, actively managed. And you can see based on that, the client's still at age 100 at 504,000 because the cost of insurance is being deducted. So the detailed charges page again, referring to give you the idea of what that is. So you can customize it in so many ways for the client. I'm just going to close all of those tabs so I'm not too far off. The other scenario that I want to do, of course, was the T100. So with the T100 cost of insurance, it's always increasing. There is no level death benefit for the T100. The premiums, the cost rate of return, I'm going to do this at 4% rate of return. And there'll be no withdrawals. I'm not adding any riders right now. I'm going to do that on the next illustration to show you more of how to customize it. Okay. So this is the T100 cost of insurance. And it tells you here T100, so 500,000 at 5,790. We have the monthly and the minimum monthly that the client has to make. So page 2 gives us the monthly, the minimum monthly, which is about the same. They just rounded off the minimum monthly, the maximum monthly, and then the maximum annually within the MTAR room. Here, one other thing I did not mention, extreme disability is built in to the T100, increasing and the YRT increasing, okay? So with the T100, you can see that the MTAR room is similar to the YRT room, but here it's always face plus. There is no surrender charges. You will see that no surrender charge, the fund value and the cash surrender value is exactly the same. And the policy always grows. So the base fund value plus amount of risk is your death benefit, and the amount at risk never reduces. On the YRT, it does, because as you build up the cash value on the YRT, the amount of risk reduces. So this was done at 4%, and you can see that at age, I'm going to go to age 87, for example, the policy is worth 515,000 because we chose level minimum deposit for this. And then we're going to customize it for another deposit so you can see that. And let's go to the detailed charges page. So this looks very different than the YRT because the premiums are levelized for the full duration of the policy. Okay, so we have the premium tax, the fixed policy fee, and then the actual cost of the insurance. And the cost of the insurance is significantly higher because we're paying that higher cost upfront and not as much as going towards the investment. So that would be the difference in the cash value growth in the policies. And then we have some of the other pages, which we'll read about similar to the other pages, but you can go through those. When it comes to the underwriting, again, because I'm using the same age, there is no underwriting. And the ACB is there. And the last page is the acknowledgement. Now with Universal Life, which I didn't mention, this acknowledgement page must be signed by the client, okay? So I'm going back to client and coverage. If I want to limited fund this policy, I can again do the same, go to none. I can choose to pay it over a number of years, say 15 years, for example. And then I go back to here and I go calculate and I can have 853. If the client says I want to make $1,500 a month, or if I change it to annually, the client is making 10,000, say the client wants to make 15,000, I can go to none. I can type in 15,000. So now I have 15,000 for 15 years. And if I want to see it, it's here. So it shows me 15,000 for 15 years. What if the client wants to, from time to time, put in an additional, say, $10,000? So the client decided in year 5, I want to add 10,000. So I can make this 25,000 because 15 plus 10, 25,000. And then maybe year 10, they want to do the same thing. So you can customize it any which way. Go okay. So now what does my illustration look like? So we're not going to worry about page 1, but when we look at page 2, we can see that year 5, they put in an extra 10,000. Year 10, they put in another 10,000, but that makes a big difference in the total death benefit as well. So you can see the death benefit keeps growing, but when you compare it to the YRT cost of insurance, it doesn't show as well in the later years or even in the early years. So see the value. I know a lot of advisors don't like the YRT costs. So that's why with YRT costs, it's good to use the lower interest rates right away to get the higher premiums. So this way the policy is not going to lapse down the road. If you want to, because we have that 1% guaranteed bonus starting in year 6. So the policy cannot really be less than, because you'll have the cost of insurance that's taken out, only the overfunding part is invested. So then the actual policy cannot be basically lapsing or anything like that if it's funded properly. This T100 cannot lapse unless you stop making premium payments, because the investment doesn't affect the actual cost of the insurance. And the YRT, it plays a direct role in the funding of the YRT cost of insurance for the UL. So that's why I'm extra cautious when I do YRT, that I always start at a lower interest rate. The other thing I want to show you, you can even do the cost of insurance at 0 rate of return if you choose. So if I want to do this at 0 return, I can do it. And this way the client sees if there is nothing. So in this case, with funding the policy the way I have it at 15,000, it says the policy is not going to last to age 100. It'll only last up to age 97 because there's no growth in the policy whatsoever. Well, very, very little actually in the policy. So these are some of the things that you can test and play with and have an idea of what the policy will look like. I'm going to show one other scenario with layering the coverage. Okay, so I'm going to go back to scenario 1. I'm going to use the YRT increasing. So it really doesn't matter. It's just showing you how the increasing, the layering work. So I'm an individual. If I want to add a term rider or a term insurance or a critical illness insurance, this is how I will do it. You can't add anybody else because it's just that one person. I can go add. I want to add maybe a term 25, for example, for maybe 250,000. I want to add it for maybe only 25 years. I can do that. Then I want to add critical illness. So now I'm coverage number 2 here. I can choose my critical illness T75, for example. Do I want basic or enhanced? Enhanced is 25 conditions, basic is 3, so I want a better condition. So I have the 25 and maybe I want 150,000 of CI coverage. So I can do that. It will expire in 28 years because of the age of the client. I have the option of return a premium on death. On the T75, I have an option of return a premium on expiry or return a premium cancellation. What is the difference? Return a premium at expiry will be at age 75. If you have no claim, you get refunded all your premiums. If you have any of the early stages benefits paid out, then at age 75, if there's no claim for the covered condition itself, then we will reduce it by the amount paid out as the early stages benefit. If you have one of the covered condition that's paid out, then of course you will get that early stages claim if you had it, plus the full amount for the covered condition without any reduction. Only when the return of premium happens is when they will reduce it if you have that early stages condition paid out. Return of premium cancellation is the later of 20 years or age 55. So in this case, the client is 53, so it'll be at 73, the earliest that the client can get it. If the client was 35, it'll be 55 that the client can access the cash, can cancel the CI and get all the premiums paid returned for the CI only. So it could be a rating, it'll be the return of premium options that are added, all of that are included, okay? Here's another option available. If you have critical illness coverage on a universal life policy, you layer it with critical illness, or if you just have a standalone critical illness, you can add a child endorsement. So that means if the child is under age 17, you can add them to the policy for 5,000 to a maximum of 50,000 of coverage. If you enter a higher amount, for example, it will give you an error message to say 50,000 is the maximum. This goes up to age 25 of the child. It is not convertible at all. It will end at age 25. It covers, I think, 14 covered conditions. Okay. So 14 covered conditions is under the child endorsement coverage. But of course, the child has to be healthy enough to get the coverage. So there'll be questions in the application that must be answered so the child can qualify for that coverage. Okay, so, and then we have these other riders. If you're already having critical illness here, this critical illness rider here is only 20,000. It's 3 conditions and it's level to age 85. So you cannot convert it to permanent. It is to age 85. That, and once you have a claim for one of the covered conditions, it's paid out and it ends. We have a waiver of premium, 4 months or 6 months option that you have. There is on the minimum premium or the billing premium, you have those options. There's also accidental death and dismemberment. The child life rider, you can get up to 25,000 of coverage for a child if the children are under age 17. And there is the fracture benefit. So these are all optional riders you have, including the layering are optional. If the client wants to add term, add CI, they can do it to the policy. Okay. And what does the cover look like? Coverage looks like if I were to say add all these options. And including child endorsement. So you can see when you layer the coverage, you'll have the universal life, all the riders that you've chosen, the critical illness, the term. But what you will see is that extreme disability is not included. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, extreme disability is included. I was looking at the wrong. So extreme disability is 50% of the face of the life insurance to a maximum of 250,000. So 50% of 500 is 250,000. So on the term, you will not get any of the extreme disability included. Okay. And with the full coverage, so you have all the charges, everything here that shows if you're paying it for a limited number of years, the amount at risk, the death benefit. Now here, the ROP on death. So because we chose a term 75 for the CI, that's why it ends at age. The ROP on death is return premium on the CI, so that's why it shows here. That is the maximum. If you were to die without having a claim, that's the amount that will be refunded. Okay. Let's see what else. I just want to go to the detailed charges pages to just show you again all that it is showing. So we have the premium tax. So for the years that you pay the premium is when the premium tax applicable, the fixed fees, the cost of the actual insurance, cost of the term, cost of the CI. So it breaks it down for you. So you have all of that so you can explain that to your client if they have questions. Okay. So, Andrew, is it, do you think I should show anything else?
Can we go back to the, just to the main UL illustration? I'd like to talk about the face value adjustments.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
just explain the difference
yes.
and when we would use them or why, when they apply.
Okay. So you can explain them?
I can explain them. Yeah,
Okay,
that's no
good.
problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you'll notice we get the questions about this all the time. On the right-hand side there, you'll see it says face amount adjustment, and you've got the option of selecting no increase, exempt test increase, increase and decrease, and maximizer. What I'll suggest is the rule of thumb, what I would recommend everybody do is put it on increase and decrease and set that as your default. Generally speaking, if you have increases and decreases, it's going to be the most advantageous in most cases. Now, if you have a situation where a client is rated, it's going to automatically default to no increase. And what these face amount adjustments do, this happens behind the scenes. So in order to keep the contract tax exempt, if you're putting additional deposits, so if you're overfunding, which if you're using YRT, I strongly recommend that you be putting more than the minimum in. Yeah. But if you're overfunding it, we need to potentially increase the face value of the contract, increase the amount at risk in the background in order to make up enough MTAR room to keep the contract on side or to keep it tax exempt. Now, there's a fairly complex calculation that's done that I really couldn't explain if I wanted to, but the idea is you need to have the ability to have the contract increasing. Now, like I said, if they're rated, there's going to be a higher cost of insurance anyway, and that no increase is going to apply, so that's fine. If they are planning on max funding the contract at all times, or at least most of the time, then the exempt test increase only can be selected. If they may over contribute, sometimes if they plan on over contributing, but once in a while may not, increases and decreases is going to be your default. We can increase or decrease the contract in the background as needed. So like I said, that's where I would put it at your default, because it's never going to hurt it. If we need to increase every time, we'll increase it every time. If they have a few years that they can't make the maximum and we need to reduce it a little in the background, we will. This doesn't impact the death benefit that's available to them. It's just the way the MTAR calculation is done. So it's happening in the background. Now, Maximizer, on the other hand, is a little bit different. And what Maximizer does is it essentially maximizes the deposits they're putting into it. So you're generally only going to use the Maximizer option if you have a client who has a lot of money that they're looking to get into their universal life contract as quickly as possible, and they likely don't have any need for it down the road. The idea is we're going to essentially replace the total amount of insurance at risk, or the amount at risk that the insurance company is providing, with the client's own dollars. We're basically moving as much of their money as we can into the contract to be sheltered within that tax exempt room. So Maximizer it's more of a concept. The first three are where you would select it. Like I said, increases and decreases is generally going to be your default. Maximizer is going to be a specific situation where you're trying to get as much of the client's money into that contract and reduce the amount at risk as quickly as possible. So I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, Safeena.
No, in a nutshell it is, but the maximizer, sorry, my tongue is tied, doesn't always work the way the advisor expects. Sometimes if the client says, well, I don't want to reduce the face amount of the insurance, maybe Maximizer is not for you. So things like that, because it does reduce the face amount and increases the cash values in the policy, like Andrew mentioned, to tax shelter more of the cash as opposed to having insurance amount, death benefit. So instead of death benefit, you're building and securing more tax, I guess, tax-free monies.
Tax-free savings room within that UL contract.
Yeah.
So it's not used very often. like I said, generally speaking, that increase and decrease should be the default. And Safeena, can you just
Yeah.
show them how to set the defaults? There's a couple of things that I would do depending on how you want things done. But
So the
for myself,
maximizer or the increase decrease?
no, just the general settings. So what I would do if I was running this or getting it set up for
Oh, yes.
myself is I'd set my province. I live in Alberta, so I set my province to Alberta. The marginal tax rate defaults at 30, but depending on your clients, you may want to change that from time to time. You may want to set the default to 35, 40%, whatever is more appropriate for you. The face amount, you might want to set a default that's different than what shows up. I set my cost of insurance default to YRT, but you can set it to level if you, or the T100 if you prefer. Death benefit, I set the default to increasing. You can set that to a level if you'd like. And then I would put the increases and decreases. Set it the way you want it for one, and then go in as Safeena's showing right now and click that save settings. And that save settings is then going to save that for every time you go into the software. So set it the way you want it, save settings, and then you know it's going to be that way every time. So it saves you from having to change it from Quebec to Alberta each time you go into it or what have you.
So your province, your investments, if you want to choose a set of investments that you use normally, you would set all of that so that it's in the save settings. So now when you go in, including your report, so you can customize the report how you want it. And then when you save it, all of that automatically, when you're generating a report, it produces all of that for you because it's already saved in the system.
Speaking of that, can you go back to the investments tab for a moment?
Absolutely.
So if, for example, you want to build a portfolio, right now we have it on growth strategy. Let's just say, for example, Safeena, go to the CI Cambridge Canadian Asset Allocation. Just up, or pick, just, it doesn't actually matter. Just pick one at random.
Say
so let's
25%.
say you want, yeah, exactly. It'll automatically create another spot. So you can put in as many, I mean, eventually it does limit out, but you can put in multiple different investments to build a portfolio as well. So we do have some advisors who have a specific portfolio they like to use. You can put it in there, you can save it as your default and it will always be there. Or you can use the prepackaged portfolio funds, which personally I'm a big fan of because, if you're not going to be regularly managing this, if you're not going to 100% guarantee that you'll always be doing the follow-ups to rebalance the portfolio funds are rebalanced in the background. So using the aggressive strategy, the moderate strategy, the conservative strategy, those are going to be looked after behind the scenes. But if you do want to manage it yourself, you can set it up this way and it will allow you the opportunity to build a portfolio that's appropriate for your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we do have on a monthly basis, we get around, I would say by the middle of the month, we usually get the returns on the UL for the previous month. So for February, for example, we got it around the middle of March. It is in the advisor secured site posted. You can get it there. If you're not sure, you can call us and we can try to retrieve it and send it to you as well. So you see how the investments are performing 1 month, 3 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, all of that is there. So you can see the historicals of the funds. And then you can decide, with the ones that you feel may be best suited for the client based on their risk tolerance.
Can you show us where to look for that, Safeena, please?
Okay, so I've got to go to the advisor secured site. So just give me one moment. So this was the document center that I told you about. So this here doesn't have the rate of return, but if I go to, and I have shortcuts to everything.
If you don't have the shortcut saved, it's ssq.ca, and then there is a login directly from there.
So UL rates of return. So here is a February. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the rates of return as of February 2022. So if we look at the managed accounts and index accounts, although the 1 month have quite a few negatives, we look at the year-to-date returns. You can see some of these returns are very good as well. We look at I have more negatives now. We have 6% of the Canadian Guardian Canadian Fund. We have on the index accounts, we have a lot of negatives. When we look at the 1-year return, we have better returns. So for example, most of them are positive. We have on the CI signature, 6%, 13% on the CI signature growth, 17% on the Triazima Canadian, if that one matches up, 21% on the Hillsdale, I believe. Yeah, 21% on the Hillsdale. We have 21% on the Lazard Global. On the index funds, we had some great returns for 1 year as well. 20% on the Canadian equity S&P, 16% on the US equity S&P. So by going through and look at the historicals of these, you can see even over the 3-year, 5-year, or 10-year period that they've done extremely well, some of these funds. So you may want to look to see where you find or the client may be interested in investing. So we have this produced on a monthly basis.
And keep in mind with the Universal Life investment portfolio, it's really no different than another investment portfolio. Your past returns aren't necessarily indicative of future performance, but at the same time, you are looking at a longer term time horizon. If we're looking at a UL contract that's designed to be in place until age 100, there are going to be years in there that are negative. It is likely going to happen. So you do want to be comparing more to those 5 and 10 year returns. You do want to be looking at that longer time horizon. And like I said, rebalancing that portfolio if needed. So as Safeena mentioned, if you look at the 10-year returns, you can see that the conservative, balanced, growth, and aggressive strategy have all averaged between 5 and 10%. So if you're doing an illustration and you're using a 4% return or a 3% return, it's obviously not guaranteed, but there's a real probability that you should be able to achieve that 3 to 5% return without too many issues.
Yep. Okay, so we're open for our question.
Sorry, can you go back and show them where the fund facts are as well?
Certainly. So
this would be useful if you are looking to build your own portfolios. Again, I'm a big proponent of the balanced portfolio funds, or not the balanced one, but the portfolio funds, the managed portfolio funds. But if you are in that same toolbox, just
right here. So I went into secured site, I got the rate of return. So these managed accounts, they're all here. You click on them and you will get the 2-pager on the actual fund facts, more like a 1 page.
Yeah, and there you can see the top 10 investments. So you can see exactly what is invested within those portfolios as well. So, you've got the Alpha Fixed Return, you've got the SSQ, Sierra Capital Bond Fund. So you can see what the investments are. And keep in mind that these are, like I said, these ones, the nice thing with these is they're managed in-house. So they're made up of third-party funds, but they're managed and rebalanced in the background. So if you're not extremely hands-on with investments and you're not comfortable rebalancing or picking a portfolio, this is a great way to put something in place that is going to match the client's risk tolerance and be managed professionally in the background.
Right. As well, here it tells you your asset mix in the graph, and here it tells you the guarantee annual fees as well. So each one of these funds do have a fee, and these fees are deducted daily from the UL investment account.
So those fees are very much like you would see in an MER, a fee with a mutual fund or a segregated fund. We don't add the guarantee fee on top of other fees. It is the fee. That's the only one that we have. So you do have to keep in mind that if you're looking at a 10% return, remove the guarantee fee from that, and that'll give you your net return on that investment.
So if we go, say, for example, let's just choose the Lazard Global Infrastructure Fund, for example. Where did it go?
Here, I'm referring to the Andrew's question, Ashraf here. Actually, what you said is, if we are saying the 10% of rate of return, then we have to deduct the MER. But what our understanding, or maybe we are mistaken, we are told when we talk about the investments, they said whatever the rate of return is always up. It always net. But here is different. Your statement is different here.
With ours, I don't know if you can zoom in there, Safina.
I'm
Right,
going to go to the UL rate of returns. So here it is.
yes, right
So
there.
password not necessarily, so fees active managed are not deducted from the fund return shown. So on this page here, it doesn't show the fees being deducted from it. But when you have your UL statements, the fees are deducted when your UL statement is produced.
Yes, the returns on their statements will be reduced, but
Yes.
the historical returns showing on here are not reduced by that guarantee fee.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
So here, I think this was the Lazard Fund. No, conservative strategy. Where was the other fund? Yeah, the Lazard Fund, for example, the fee on this is 3.25. So they could vary from 2.75 to about 3.5, I believe is the highest on one or two of the funds, but generally they're within that range. And this fund, as you can see, has performed very well over time. From 2012 to now, if you had 10,000, you would be basically at about 35,000 for that fund. So it has done very well over time. And these are the holdings that you have within the fund, and these are the top 10 holdings within the fund. So just to review it, the fund facts are there, and this was produced as of December 31st, 2021. So I believe it's every 3 months that we have it produced.
Yeah, so the quarterly one, the next quarterly one should be coming out shortly.
Yes.
I have a question here,
Mm-hmm.
not regarding the investment, but if a corporation is buying a life insurance on a key person,
Mm-hmm.
can the company show it as an expense?
So it's going to be an expense to the company, but whether it's deductible or not is another question. And there's very, very few cases that that the insurance premium is going to be deductible for the corporation. Generally speaking, if it's used to secure a loan, so if the lending company has made it mandatory that there's insurance to cover the loan, that the loan has tax deductible interest, so essentially it's being used to generate income, and the corporation is the owner, payer, and beneficiary of the contract, then in those circumstances it may be tax deductible. But generally, as a rule of thumb, it's not going to be tax deductible unless those specific circumstances are met. So if you have a corporate case, if you're working on a corporate case and you have sort of specific questions like that, feel free to reach out to me as well. We can always take a look at it one-on-one and go through it. When we get into more detailed tax questions, it might be advisable to speak to an accountant or a tax professional on it. But generally speaking, no, it's not tax deductible unless those specific criteria are met. Being that it's to secure a loan, it's mandatory from the lender. They can't just have it and say it's to secure the loan. It has to be mandatory from the lender, and it does have to be tax deductible interest on that loan. So essentially to generate that income.
Okay, and how about all the UL policy move to GIA account when they go for policy loan?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So basically, when in the investments in the UL, what he's asking is when you collateralize the policy,
Yeah.
is the investments now moved to a guaranteed GIC account, or can they stay in the investment as they are? I'm not 100% sure on that, but I can check into it.
No, it is. If you're using it, if you're doing a policy loan, then it is moved into the guaranteed interest account. So you're not going to be able to leave it in any equity investments if you're using it as a loan, or if you're doing a policy loan. Now, I believe if it's a collateral loan, so you're using it as collateral and taking a loan from a bank, the bank may allow it to remain. It may be allowed to remain in the equities, but you're not going to be able to borrow as much. So, for example, I believe with National Bank is the one that we have somewhat of an agreement with. They'll allow to loan up to 90% of any guaranteed interest cash values. or 60% of any equities. So there are some limitations if it's in equities.
Okay, so in case of collateral loan, there is a possibility it can stay in the equity, right?
Yes,
It won't move into GIA, but that's just a possibility.
that's right. It's going to depend on the lender.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's if
But
the
in
lender's
policy loan, it will certainly move into the GIC, right?
correct.
The GIA, yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's 1%, right? It
The
will stay
10-year
at one.
the
Right now,
10-year
our guaranteed
GIA
is
at
1%. Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's all question I had, Andrew. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just one more thing, if I could add on this. So on this, on the fund fact here, it states here that the interest rate credited to the accumulation fund is 100% of the compounded return of the index, including any dividends and conversion to Canadian dollars where applicable, minus the guaranteed annual fees shown in the universal life insurance policy. So these returns are going to show this already being deducted. So which are basically true returns that you are getting here. So the historical returns here are less the fee, the UL fees. And you can see historically, this fund has done phenomenally well. So you can look at all the different funds and they're very attractive.
No, again, because there are two statements. Before, when we were going to the fund facts in the back office, it is without deductions, but here it shows with deductions, is it? After deduction.
Yes,
These are the net ones.
because it
Okay,
states.
that's yeah, that's good.
Mhm. Because if you have it in writing, then you're 100% sure what the outcome is. If it isn't, if we don't have the answer, we'll find it for you. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I have one question regarding the CI. When it's go to cancellation of premiums, return of premiums and cancellation,
Mhm.
what happens if the policy is only for 75, but the client has chosen this cancellation of a return of premium on cancellation? What will happen if client is living or is no claim until age 75? Still he's getting back all the premiums or he needs to cancel in the last month? How is
No, he doesn't need to. So return of premium and cancellation, as long as you're making premium payments, that cancellation amount will increase because all the premiums paid into the policy is accumulated. So it's the later of 20 years or age 55 is the earliest you can get the premium. So if you're 35, the earliest you can get it is 55, but you can keep making the premium payments. And if it's a T75, you have no claim at 75. You can get all the premiums that you paid into the policy, including if there's any ratings, return of premium on death, if you've chosen that, the return of premium on cancellation option. So all of that is added together and that is your return of premium if you have no claim. But if you were to have any of the early stages claim, so you have say early stages of prostate cancer or breast cancer, something like that, because you haven't had a claim on the covered condition itself that pays the full amount of the full face amount, we will deduct what we paid out. So if you take 100,000, it'll be 10% that you'll be paid for the early stages condition. So we will deduct that from the refund of premiums. But if you've had a zero claim, then you will get every penny back that you paid for the CI.
That's really good to understand, because instead of expiry, if we have a cancellation, clients have more options to go with.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. And
Keep
one
in
more
mind-
question.
oh.
Yes, Andrew, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, you may notice when you're using the critical illness that there is return of premium on cancellation and return of premium on expiry. Every once in a while, people will select return of premium on expiry for a term CI, and they will think, okay, it's a term 20. At the end of the 20 years, we'll get the refund of premium. Please keep in mind that it has to stay in force until that contract expires, which means if it's in place until age 75 and it's renewing 3 times before that, they have to keep it through that renewal period. So return of premium on cancellation gives them the flexibility. Return of premium on expiration, it has to be held right through to the contract's expiry date. Cancellation, if they keep it till age 75 and it expires, they're still going to get that refund.
And then question here, if we have already submitted the application with the rate of return with expiry, can we change to cancellation?
If it's still in underwriting, we could
Yes.
put in a request to
If they
get
are
that changed.
enforced, if they are enforced, already enforced policies.
I don't believe so.
I can ask, I can find out for you if there is an
Please.
option to underwrite to get it added after the policy has been put in.
Yeah, no,
Put in
thank you
force.
very much for that. And one more question now is that I'm going to your universal side. Universal life, what do you guys, your experienced person, people here, what do you guys think? What is the right rate of return we need to put there if for YRT and for level cost of insurance? What is the reasonable? I'm not saying 1%. I personally don't feel I have to run at 1% to show to the client. I'm just as an advisor is my perspective. But what is the reasonable percentage? Is it a 4, 5, 6? Because the illustration shows if I'm running at 6, it shows me at 4% as well. That's normally we compare at 4% if it's going up to age 100 or not. For the client is 6%, but for the advisor is 4%. What you guys suggest? What should be the main rate of return on the top?
So
Yeah, please.
my personal opinion on that is it's kind of an it depends answer, unfortunately. There's a couple of things that come into play. One is how experienced and how hands-on the advisor is going to be in managing that portfolio. If you're brand new to the industry and don't know much about rebalancing a portfolio, you may want to err a little bit on the side of caution, be a little lower on that rate of return. I would strongly recommend erring on the side of caution and using those portfolio funds in that situation. If you're very experienced and you've been around and have been managing investment portfolios and understand how it works, you could probably creep up closer to that 5, 6, even 7% in some circumstances. I would argue, rule of thumb, probably should be looking at a 4 to 5%. And then showing, like you said, even if you go to 6, you can show that 4. And then the other side of it is, as long as the client fully understands the potential variability, you can run the illustration at 6 or 7% even, but make sure they're aware that if it doesn't perform at 6 or 7, that illustration is not going to hold up. The investment needs to perform at what we've illustrated it. So like I said, it's a depends question, or it depends answer rather. I would argue 4 to 5% is probably okay, but again, depending on your own hands-on approach and experience in that end of things, you may want to be 2 or 3, you may want to be 6 or 7, depending on where you stand and where your client is on that.
Thank you. And one addition to that, because we have 3 options here. I'm not discussing the maximizer. We have 3 options here. Term 100 increasing with increasing benefit. Then we have YRT with increasing and YRT with level. Definitely, we can't sell all this to one client. They have different clientele for that. Would you mind to elaborate a little bit on that? For which clients we are thinking that is the best client for term 100 increasing benefits, and this is the right client for YRT level, and this is the right client for YRT increase. How we as advisor, how we are going to differentiate those things, please? How to find the best solution for that client?
So again, it's going to depend on the client. But I would say, again, a rule of thumb, YRT should only be used if the client, in my opinion, is prepared to overfund it. If we're minimum funding a contract, that contract is going to get extremely expensive and probably prohibitively so rather quickly. So if they're overfunding and they're building cash within the contract, YRT could be selected. If they're looking at just having a level steady payment, they don't want to worry about what's happening with it, T100 is going to be the one to look at, the level cost. Now, as far as whether we want increasing or level on the YRT, it depends on what we're trying to do. If we're wanting to build an estate value and we're wanting to build a larger estate or a larger credit to the capital dividend account in a corporate case, a YRT is going to be an increasing death benefit is going to be the one we want to look at, because we're trying to build as much value for down the road. If we're looking at protecting a base need, so we're looking at maybe income replacement, or we want to ensure that there's a $1 million charitable contribution on death, for example, then that level death benefit is going to be appropriate. We can select the $1 million and we can have the benefit remain level. Keeping in mind that a level death benefit, because we are reducing the net amount at risk as we contribute into that contract, the overall cost of insurance is going to be lower, which means we don't necessarily need to put in as much, or we don't need to have as high of returns on it in order to generate the same death benefit. So if they are looking at building an estate or building a larger death benefit and sheltering assets, YRT with an increasing is probably going to be the one to look at. If they're looking at having a lower cost of insurance and having a level death benefit for down the road, so a set amount, that YRT level is probably going to be the option. And if they want things to just remain the same and be predictable and know exactly what premiums are going to be without having to worry about any fluctuation, especially if they want to minimum fund it, then that T100 level is going to be the way to go. Again, it's going to vary from client to client and situation to situation. And I always say, if you have a case you're working on and you want to discuss it, let me know. I'm happy to look at it.
Yeah, because your universal life is if we are selling 10 clients, I think 9 we are adding universal life with layering. That is what our team is doing. That's why we have done this. Is quite good, really great training. And because I learned a lot, and we will do the practice on this, and we will go with quick sessions with this universal life, because right now I know we have so many new advisors. They don't even I don't understand that why you're saying a net amount at risk. We have to, at least the people, they do understand how it's going to work in detail. Definitely not today, but we will set another session, and then we'll go specifically on those things as we did today. We will decide which kind of topics we are going to discuss, and then we'll go, because I'll get the consensus from all of the advisors, what kind of questions they have, what we really need to clarify, and then we will set up a training session.
Andrew, I have one more question before we, wrap up.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So I noticed that the corporate wealth note does not give the rider option. Do you know why?
Sorry, the corporate wealth note it doesn't give the rider option for term insurance?
I guess for UL.
Safeena, can you go back to the UL and just pull up the corporate wealth note?
Yep.
I'm not sure that I actually noticed that it doesn't give the rider option, so I just want to.
So this has no rider. So if we go to the concept, corporate wealth note.
So it doesn't give you the option from there, but if you add a rider prior to going into the corporate wealth note, so go back to the illustrator.
Okay, just 1 second. Calculate. Let me just go to scenario 3 then. Okay, so before I go there, oops, it changed all my scenarios. Just 1 second. Let me go to scenario 1.
Hit your back arrow at the top. I think
I
it
can
will.
do that.
Oh, it's removed it there on scenario 1.
No, yeah.
Oh, we lost it.
It removed everything. So let me just go back. Oops, sorry, wrong illustrator. I go to universal life.
I believe the reason why it's doing that is because with the corporate wealth note, the biggest benefit is to have the credit to the capital dividend account.
Yeah.
And so the universal life is going to give you term insurance would give you a good credit as well, but we want a permanent policy being used for a corporate wealth note, because the idea is that at some point the client is going to pass away. It's going to create a credit to the capital dividend account and allow that money to then flow out to their shareholders tax-free. And in the meantime, shelter that money within the UL contract. So that's likely why, and it's probably, when we run the concept, it's probably pulling any of the riders out of it anyway. That might be something I have to look into in more detail, and we might have to talk about it separately and go through a specific case, because I'm not 100% certain on that.
So the corporate wealth note, it has an error message. The concept do not take into account withdrawals and riders. So you cannot have any riders with the concept.
Okay.
So that's the way the concept is built.
Yeah, and that would likely be why, is like I said, it's wanting a permanent product that's going to create a credit to the capital dividend account. So critical illness, none of those riders are going to create a credit to the CDA, and term is likely going to run out prior to death, and so that's why it's not being incorporated in that concept.
Because it's
Thank you.
specifically for permanent life insurance. So that's why it doesn't take into account any of the riders.
Yeah,
All right.
that's right.
Okay,
Manpreet,
thank you.
yes, Manpreet, there's something to say.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I don't feel like you already give us 1.5 hours, so I'm not asking much, but only one specific question, which all of the advisor and every client asked me.
Okay.
How many times I can change the funds?
So
Okay,
you
I
can-
can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 times per year. So
Okay.
for example, if you chose one fund,
Yeah.
you can change it twice a year. So
Okay.
you can choose another fund. That's one transaction. If you have 5 funds selected for that UL and you change all the funds at one time, that's considered one transaction. So 2 transactions per year you're allowed. So if I change all the fund or one fund, that's considered one transaction. If I change, so twice a year I'm allowed that without any fees. If I change it more often, there's a $25 fee. Any additional time that I
per
took.
transactions.
Yeah. So a transaction can be all the funds, 2 of the funds, 1 of the fund, that's considered, as long as it's in one form, it's one transaction.
Okay, and still we need your time, so it's a request from my side. So give us a time, like maybe in couple of weeks or next month again, because we have so many admin questions, we have so many application questions, we have still so many software questions. If you ask me, I'll take 1 hour to ask all my questions, and you can stay here and answer all that. But I don't want to do that, so please, it's a request.
So here's
What I will do, I will send the administrative guide for enforced business. We'll answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The general information guide will answer a lot of questions, not all the questions, when it comes to like putting together an application and understanding what you're illustrating. That
Yeah,
will
sure.
be the other one. So I'll send those to you, although it is available to you in the illustration software, the product information, but the administrative guide for enforced business is in the advisor secured site, and in the document site it's there. So I'll send the link to the document site where everyone can access it. It doesn't require username and password. It is a public site to access. So you'll have all the information there. And if you're not sure and you can't find it, then come to me and I'll get the answers for you.
No, just send me the link. Yeah,
Yeah,
one more thing.
Send you the link for everything.
Yeah.
I've also just put my email address in the chat. So if you do have questions that come up, feel free to email me. I am on the road quite a bit here the next, well, the rest of this week and into next week. So I may not always be able to answer a phone call, but if you send me an email, I will respond to you ASAP and get any answers I can back to you.
Yeah, Safeena, one more request to you. If you are sending me those documents, please send the contact list for SSQ, please, because and throughout Canada, because we have some teams in Ontario, we have some teams in Manitoba as well. And especially for contracting and software number, please do send, because sometimes the advisor, they have some problems in the software which we can't fix. I'm not a software expert. I need some help on that as well.
Okay, so what I would say to you when it comes to contracting, the contracting is between the MGA and the insurance company. So we don't deal, a sales individual, we don't deal with contracting. So if there's contracting issues, your MGA with SQ's contracting department or the capital contracting.
Yeah, that's right. I just need like the phone number to set up the software and to set up the online portal for SSQ. Like term, we need a SSQ link for that. And
okay, are you talking about the back office access for your for the
for
office for all the advisors?
Yeah.
Okay, that has to go through. So
because especially we need I feel I need one more training on the portal as well, where we can see how the submission look like on that portal with SSQ. What like if SSQ is asking, okay, we can put down the weight, or from where to get the statements on UL. So those that is not happened today.
Right. So it's not so for the individual site, for the advisor to go into their own individual secured site, yes, I can train you on that. When it comes to the MGA type access, where you have access to all the advisors' business, that's not what you're looking for, right?
Yeah,
it's just
that's not what
site.
I'm looking at. Individual from SSQ.
That will be easy, so I can do that because I know how to go through that. So we can set that up. So send me an email and